Good morning.
Hello, Christy. Good morning. Welcome to India.
Good morning. Welcome to Arkansas in
Yeah,
America.
yeah. So I have actually had a great association with Arkansas because I have been to Arkansas in 2022 as a part of Fulbright Teaching Excellence and Achievement Program. So I stayed in the Arkansas for 45 days. So it has left a great memories with me. Still, I cherish them number of times, almost every day.
That's wonderful. I'm so glad that you have been able to be in Arkansas. Um, what city were you in?
Faithful.
Yes, Fayetteville. Did you learn how to call the hogs?
Yeah. So we have visited the Arkansas capital also, Little Rock.
Yes. Um, for the students that are listening, um, the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville is our flagship campus,
Yeah.
and our mascot is the Razorbacks.
Yeah.
And so we have a call and we say, "Woo, pig suey," especially when we score a lot.
Yes. So
So
the surprising thing is when I visited Arkansas, so when I saw the Razorback, in fact, in India, the pigs are considered to be the bad women. They are not considered as a big one. Actually, so and I see that yes, in fact, it's if it is in India, it's not going to happen like that. So we're now going to see these things. So it's quite surprising for me and to see the Razorback all over Arkansas.
that's so funny.
Yeah,
Well, you
yeah,
were so gracious to let me come to your classroom today. And I see all of these students and I see some hands raised too.
yeah. They are
Um,
getting ready. So I'm so thankful to Sandy, your friend, for giving me this great opportunity to interact with you and for welcoming you to our Zoom session today.
yes, my name is Christy Nation. I am born and raised in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Uh, I was fortunate to travel to Europe when I was 14, but I've not been fortunate enough to get over to India. So this is the closest I've ever gotten. Um, one of my friends had posted on Facebook that she had uh, gotten to be a guest in one of your classes. And I thought, how intriguing. So that's when I reached out to your teacher, Hari Krishna, to see about coming to your class today. I've taught on the college level for 25 years. Um, most of that was part time. And I was vice president of a hospital for 11 years. I did a lot of fundraisers with that, raised millions of dollars for the hospital. But I've always been in education. And my latest job of the last 2 years, and I've got to say, my favorite job I've ever had, is being a career coach for National Park College in Hot Springs. And I'm stationed at Cutter Morning Star High School. And I chose that high school on purpose because my sister used to teach in the school district. And I'm very well acquainted with the population of the school district. Um, and I think one of the questions is what is a career coach? So I'll answer that a little bit.
So we are coming to the questions. So thank you so much for introducing.
Sir, good morning, ma'am. My name is Soumyasri, an 8th grader from Z.P.H.S School, Ilavaram. I am so honored to interact with you. I would like to ask you a question. Can I ask, ma'am?
Yes, please.
What topics do you teach as part of communication and relationship principles?
Oh, I see. What topics I teach as part of communication and relationship principles? That is a very good question. I mentioned I had taught on the college level for 25 years, and I taught public speaking and communication and relationship principles during that time. One of the most important things I taught as far as relationships, there are different types of different types of communication. There's interpersonal communication. That's when I speak to you one-on-one. And then there's public speaking, of course. There's also intrapersonal communication. That's the communication within yourself. That's what you tell yourself when you talk to yourself. So with relationship principles, one of the most important things I taught in my class, and at your age, this is very important to listen to. There are 10 stages to a relationship, any relationship you have with anybody. And I'm going to go through those 10. And if you're taking notes, write this down. The first step, I'm going to list the 10, and then I'm going to go through those 10. So the first is initiating, and then there's experimenting, then intensifying, integrating, and bonding. Those are the coming together stages. And then there's the coming apart stages, 5 of those. Differentiating, circumscribing, stagnating, avoiding, and terminating. The reason why it's important to know these steps is that if you have a disagreement with a friend and then that relationship ends and you're like, what happened? I don't know what happened. These stages will let you know, oh, we're in this stage, so we've got to fix this. So that initiating stage is when you first meet somebody, like, hi, how are you? A lot of relationships end right there. That next stage, experimenting, that's when you ask somebody to go for a coffee, or, hey, do you want to hang out, or you want to go to a movie or something like that. And then the next stage is intensifying. That's if you get like a boyfriend or a girlfriend and you hang around each other a whole lot. And that could be a best friend kind of thing too, where you're inseparable. Now, integrating is when they identify you with that person. Let's say you are at school and your best friend's not at school, and your teacher says, hey, Jessica, where's Adam? That you've integrated. And then the bonding stage is like when people get engaged or they get married. That's a public declaration that they're together. Now, the coming apart stages, and this happens with every relationship. Differentiating is when you see differences. And that doesn't mean that a relationship ends. Everybody's got differences. Well, I want to go eat at this place. No, I want to go eat here. This is where you work on conflict. Now, circumscribing is when you talk about safe topics, when you stay away from conflict. That's a dangerous stage. It's when, let's say you have a conflict about, oh, I don't want to go to that movie. I want to go to this one. And then you don't ever go to the movies anymore. That's circumscribing. Stagnating is when you mentally avoid that person. Avoiding is when you physically avoid that person. And terminating is when you end the relationship. So those 10 stages were the most important thing that I taught my students as far as relationships. Because one of my students came up to me at the end of class one time and he said, now I understand why my fiance broke up with me. Because he didn't understand the differentiating and circumscribing stages. So it's always good if you have a conflict with one of your friends or your future relationships to have direct communication and find out what's wrong and work on the conflict, because they want to be friends just as much as you do. And if they don't, then that's not a friend you want to be with anyway. So I hope that answered your question.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
My name is Jessica, an 8th grader from Z.P.H.S School Ilavaram. I am so excited to interact with you. Namaste from India. I would like to ask you a question. Can I ask, ma'am?
Yes.
What is career coaching? What kind of career coaching is needed for secondary school students?
That's a very good question, Jessica. Thank you for asking that. A career coach is a person that guides students. In America and in Arkansas, I'm stationed here at the high school. So I career coach 7th through 12th grades, 12-year-olds up through 18 or 19-year-olds. And, we, in America, we have graduation from high school when they're in 12th grade. So they've got 2 paths that they could take. They can either choose to go to college, 3 paths. They can choose to go to college. They can choose to go to a trade school, or they can choose to go straight into the workforce. So I help them starting in 7th and 8th grade to figure out and give them a career assessment to figure out what they want to do. My job is to expose them to as many career possibilities as possible and find out what their interests are to match them with a career. Now, in Europe, when you're about your age, they take a test and that puts them on their career path. In America, they can change their mind at any time. So I introduce them to these different careers, and I help them with their college applications. I help them with scholarship applications. Scholarships help pay for college. And if they choose to go straight into the workforce, I help them write their resumes, and I do mock interviews with them to help get them ready to get a job.
Hello, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Madmaja. I am a 7th grader from Z.P.H.S School, Ilavaram. I am so privileged to interact with you. Now I would like to ask you a question. Can I ask, ma'am?
Yes, you can.
How important is listening in communication?
That is an excellent question. It's probably the most important question. Listening is everything in communication. I tell my students to give the gift of the pause. The gift of the pause. What that means is a lot of people listen to figure out what they're going to say next. They listen to respond. And in communication, the most important thing is to understand what the other person is saying and what they want from you. And then listen for that and then respond to the question. All too often when we're in a conversation, we see the person's mouth moving, but we have our own agenda in our minds of what we're going to say next. So listening is the most important part of communication, because you don't know what's in the other person's brain when you're talking. You're talking to get a response from them to your question. So when I say the gift of the pause, it is when somebody is saying something to you, instead of responding immediately or interrupting or stepping or speaking over them to get your answer out. When they say something, pause just a moment to make sure you understood what they said, formulate your response, and then answer their question. So listening is the most important part of communication. Thank you for that question.
Thank you, ma'am, for answering my question.
You're so welcome.
Nandakishore, over to you.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
This is Nandakishore, an 8th grader from Z.P.H.S Ilavaram. Now, I would like to ask a question. Here my question is, how to improve communication skills?
How to improve communication skills? Is that what you asked?
Yeah, that's what it's.
Excellent question. And I must say, Hare Krishna, I'm very impressed with the English speaking skills of your students. It takes every student in this classroom, please listen to what I'm saying. It takes a very intelligent person to learn at least 2 languages. And I dare say most of you probably know 3, because there's different dialects in India. So always know how intelligent you are. And not just because you know English, but just the fact that you understand that you're bilingual or trilingual or quadrilingual. But how to improve communication skills, I'm going to dovetail off that last question about the listening. The best way you can improve your communication skills is to sharpen your listening skills. I'm telling you, the best way to make friends with people is to listen to what they say and respectfully answer them. There is a motivational speaker that I really respect. He passed away a few years ago, but his name is Zig Ziglar. And he would say, if you help enough other people get what they want, you're going to get what you want. So always seek to help other people first. Fred Rogers, who used to do Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, he said, find the people who are helping. So to improve your communication skills, be a very good listener. And that's going to help you make a lot of friends. And people will seek you out for your advice and your guidance because you're going to be such a good listener. It's amazing when you let the other person talk and you don't say hardly anything and you're listening and you're responding a little bit. They're going to say, wow, what a great conversation. So that's the best way to improve is to be a good listener.
Yes, I do agree with you. Absolutely. So, in fact, some of these students are able to speak 3 languages. One is my regional language, Telugu, and our national language, Hindi, of course,
Yes.
English. Yeah, here is one girl and who knows 3 languages. She can speak 3 languages. Farhat, over to you.
That's wonderful.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
My name is Farhat Tausum. I am studying 7th grade from Z.P.H.S School, Ilavaram. I would like to share a little. I would like to ask a question.
Yes,
Can I
ma'am.
ask, ma'am?
Yes, you may.
How public speaking is a skill?
That is a very good question. Thank you for asking that. And I'm super impressed that you're trilingual. Public speaking is a skill because let me tell you, people have a lot of fears. And the top 2 fears are, passing away from something and public speaking because they don't want to be embarrassed. And there is a myth that public speaking is something that you're born with. That's a myth. Now, some people have a natural gift or they have a natural tendency to be outgoing. You're born with that. But public speaking is a skill. It's not an inborn gift because it's something that you practice, that you work on. I understand that cricket is very popular in India. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
Great.
there are some people that are born, that they have the natural athletic ability to be a cricket player, but being a cricket player is a skill. They have to learn the rules of it and they have to practice. Public speaking is the same way. Even if you're more of a shy person, that is absolutely fine. That doesn't mean that you cannot be a good public speaker. Being a good public speaker means, and I may get a question later on about how to make a good speech, but I'll touch on it a little bit. Being a good public speaker is, first of all, knowing your material and practice and enunciation. So public speaking is a big time skill. Everyone in this classroom can be a good public speaker if you work at it.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
Ma'am,
Good morning.
how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Fine, thank you, ma'am. I am an 8th grader from Z.P.H.S School, Ilavaram. I am so proud to interact with you. Here, I would like to take it an opportunity to ask you a question. Here, my question is, please share advantages of career coaching.
The advantages to career coaching are vast. So much so that our state of Arkansas has invested quite a bit of money in the state to make sure that we have over 100 career coaches in the school districts. There are high school counselors that they have a different job than I do. They set the schedule. They meet with students with, personal problems and that kind of thing. But my job is solely focused on what their career is going to be, helping them get ready to go to college, helping them find the money to go to college. I meet with a lot of students one-on-one, and our high school counselor simply does not have enough time in her schedule to meet with students one-on-one. So a huge advantage of career coaching in these schools is I get to meet with my students one-on-one. And a lot of times they want to meet with you in private. It helps them really think through what they want to do. And I can spend quite a lot of time with them as necessary. So it also helps them be exposed to many different career fields. So if they're with a career coach, they wouldn't be exposed to as many things. I host some field trips off of campus and I take them to different things and show them different career fields. Many advantages to being a career coach. That's why it's my favorite job I've ever had. Thank you for that question.
Thank you, Christy. Christy, here is a question. In India, as you know, we have very limited resources as far as recruiting the career coaches. So in this context, I think teachers, as a teachers only, we need to act as a subject teacher, as a career coach. So in this regard, what qualities should a career coach should possess? Because teaching English language is one job, but the career coaching is definitely a different role we have to play, because we have to mingle with the students and we have to guide with the students. It's a different role altogether. So what do you say about this different role, and what kind of qualities you think should the career coach have?
I think the first quality that a career coach should have is wanting what's best for the student. There's needs in industries that there's a lot of needs in industries, and it would be very, I suppose, tempting to try to guide students into what is needed in the area. But the number one quality is making sure that the students' wishes and desires for their career are met. It's seeing where their interests are and listening to them, and then finding those different paths and different jobs for them. It's not the other way around. It's not, oh, I've got a board of job opportunities and here's career paths in this area to guide them that way. It's student first. It's always student first. And that's the biggest quality. You know, I am secondary to the student. You know, I find out what they want and then I go out and help them get it. So that's the number one quality.
Yeah.
And the second quality is having as many contacts as possible. One of the reasons I was chosen for this position is over my decades long career, I've gotten to make a lot of contacts in this area. So when I do have a student say, oh, I'm interested in this career area, I'd like to job shadow in this area, I have a list of people that I can talk to and call on my phone and say, hey, can this student job shadow with you? So that's a quality as well, having friends who are business leaders that can hook them up and expose them to those different career opportunities.
Yeah.
Good question.
Thank you so much. And here is another question. Akash, over to you.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
This is Akash Kumar, an 8th grader from Z.P.H.S Ilavaram. Now I would like to ask you a question, ma'am. Can I?
Yes.
Many students are scared to give public speeches in front of their friends. Then how can we train these students to be a successful public speaker?
That is a wonderful question. Thank you for asking that. Yes, it is scary to give a public speech, especially in front of your friends. But just like playing a sport, you do it over and over and over again. The thing is, when you do a speech, you come up with, let's say someone said, Christy, I want you to give a speech about dogs. Okay. The first thing I would do is come up with 3 different smaller topics about dogs. I could talk about big dogs, small dogs, and show dogs. 3 small topics. And I come up with different points underneath the big dogs and what I'm going to say about small dogs and then about show dogs. And then I come up with an attention getter. I come up with a story about dogs. And then I go into the body of my speech. I talk about the big dogs, small dogs, and show dogs. And then I go into my conclusion and then wrap up a story about dogs. So here's the thing. No matter how long the speech is, let's say, Christy, I want you to give a 5-minute speech about dogs. I would write that speech and then I would practice it at least 20 times. At least 20 times. And I have an index card, like a little card, and I would write my points out, like about 3 to 5 words per point. And then I would practice that over and over and over again in front of a mirror. And then I would practice a few more times in front of some chosen friends. So, you know, when you play sports, you practice over and over and over again. Now, being nervous about giving a speech, those are, you know, you have what we call in America butterflies in your stomach. You get this nervous feeling in your stomach. Well, again, my friend, the motivational speaker I talked about earlier, Zig Ziglar, he would always talk about getting those butterflies flying in formation in your stomach. The secret to that is practice. You cannot practice a speech too many times, at least 20 times. And the reason for that is you've got to get your mouth used to those words. And the more times you practice, the more comfortable you're going to be. That nervousness comes from uncertainty. And you've also got to know that your friends want you to do well when you're giving your speech. When you're giving a speech to people, you've got to have the mindset, a positive mindset, that everybody in that audience wants you to do well on that speech. They're not rooting for you to mess up. If they're rooting for you to mess up, they're not your friend. So always know people are looking for you to do well on this. Now, was I a little nervous about speaking to India today, to students to India? Of course I was. Of course. But I also know my field well enough. You know, you're not asking me about rocket science. You know, I'd be very nervous about that. I wouldn't know anything about that. But you're asking me about a field that I know, that I practiced over the years knowing. So that's why my butterflies are flying in formation right now. Yes, I have butterflies, but they're flying in formation. Thank you for that question.
Hello, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am. How are you, ma'am?
I'm very well. How are you?
I am fine, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. My name is Mamata. I am a 7th grader. I am from Z.P.H.S School, Ilavaram. I am so excited to ask you a question. Can I ask, ma'am?
Yes.
Could you please share some tips for public speaking?
Yes, I can. I touched on those a little bit earlier, but when you do write a speech, pick out 3 main points for the body of the speech. That is number 1. 3 main points in your body. And think about that dog example, or whatever other animal that is your favorite. So write your introduction. Now, the attention getter that's the first words out of your mouth when you give a speech. When you give a speech, the first words are not, hello, my name is Christy Nation and I'm a career coach and my topic is. No, the first words out of your mouth are your attention getter. Your attention getter can be a story, a joke, or a quote. Always remember first words out of your mouth. And first words are not, oh, I'm so nervous, or, oh, I hope I'm going to do okay on this speech, or anything like that. First words are your attention getter. And then you reveal the topic. So let's say I was going to do that dog speech and I would tell a story. So I'm going to start out with that. So when I was a little girl, my grandfather had this little white poodle named T-John. And he had that poodle for 17 years. And I was so proud that when I was 6 years old, I got to walk T-John out in the yard. And my sister's 3 years younger than me. And she would get so angry that I got to walk the dog that one time she just threw herself on the ground because she was so mad about not getting to walk the dog. And it turns out the dog was my grandfather. It's just stuck to that dog, and the dog wouldn't really pay attention to anybody except for my grandfather. So today I'm going to tell you about 3 kinds of dogs. I'm going to tell you about big dogs, small dogs, and show dogs. And then I would go into, I'd tell you about the large dogs. I'd tell you about the small dogs, and then I would tell you about the show dogs. And then I would say, today I've told you about big dogs, small dogs, and show dogs. Now, to this day, my sister still loves to walk the dog. And she has a dog named Biscuit, who is my favorite dog on the whole entire world. So that would be my speech. Now, I can expand that speech as long as I want it, because it's 3 different points. Let's say somebody says, Christy, give me a 5-minute speech. Well, I would spend about a minute and a half on the large dogs, a minute and a half on the small dogs, and a minute and a half on the big dogs. If they wanted me to give an hour speech, I would expand how long I'm going to talk about the large dogs, etc. So some more tips. Like I said before, I cannot stress enough about the practice of your speech over and over and over again. When I was a senior in college, I had a big capstone project that I was doing, and I had to give a 30-minute speech about my project. It was about a 20-page paper that I'd written. And I just thought, well, I'll practice it a couple of times. Well, I had a good friend at the time that really wanted me to do well on this capstone. So I practiced in front of them. Biggest lesson I ever learned. I did my 30-minute presentation and I thought, oh, that's pretty good. And they didn't say anything else. They said, do it again. Come on, do it again. And I did the 30 minutes. Didn't say a word. Do it again. I just did it twice. Do it again. We spent all day working on that presentation. All day. Best investment I ever made, because I made an A on it. And then I also got to travel to Virginia to a conference to present that, because I had practiced so much. And I got a paid trip to be able to go present that because I practiced so much on that. Biggest lesson I ever made. Biggest lesson I ever learned.
Yes. So thank you so much for sharing the great story. So definitely these students also, I think tomorrow, maybe in future, they are going to be public speakers. So your tips definitely helpful to them.
That pleases me so much.
My name is Ritika. I am Z.P.H.S School Ilavaram. I am so privileged to interact with you. Namaste from India. I would like to ask you a question. Can I ask, ma'am?
Namaste. Yes, you may.
Is there a way we can measure or assess effective communication?
That's an excellent question. Is there a way we can measure or assess effective communication? I think you can measure that personally and academically. Personally, how many friends do you have? You know, there are some people that say, well, I only need a few close friends, and that's good. You know, how many people smile your way when you're coming? How many people are glad to see you when you're coming? That's an assessment of good communication. You know, how open are you? How positive are you? What comes out of your mouth to other people? You know, in America, there are 2 types of people. We have optimists and we have pessimists. And the pessimists, they're the ones that say, it looks like it's going to rain today, or can't believe these gas prices. You know, that's their topics of conversation, just the complaint. Nobody really wants to be around that. And some people say things sarcastically. That's like their thing, that they want to joke about it and be sarcastic about it. But it's still a negative kind of thing. And I like joking around. That's cool. But if the first thing out of your mouth is something positive, like, oh, what a beautiful day, and somebody says, well, it's cloudy. Well, at least I don't have to have my sunglasses on. You know, you look for the positive things. So academically, you know, it obviously would be in your grades. Effective communication is not just speaking, it's also writing. How clear are you? Another assessment of effective communication is, how much of a direct communicator are you? You know, do you hint around about what you want, or do you directly ask? You know, I think in our society, a lot of people have been trained that they've got to hint around about what they want, and they don't directly ask what they want. I think an important lesson would be if there's something that you directly want, just ask for it. And then your assessment would be, are you going to get it or not? You know, how do you ask for it? Are you respectful? Everybody on this Zoom call has been saying, may I ask you a question? And of course, my answer is yes, but it's very, very positive. And I really appreciate your asking me that. So I think that's a good way to measure and assess good communication. How many friends do you have and how many people are smiling around you and what your grades are? Let me, I've got to get my badge so I can get back in the building. All right. Excellent question. Okay, this is my classroom.
Oh, it's really amazing.
This was the conference room, and the superintendent and principal were so gracious to give me this classroom so that I can meet with students. And I help them with different things in here. And I also go to the classroom. So this is down the hall. That's the principal's office down the hall in the main office. And I'm going outside.
Okay.
Just look, my door is right here. I'm so lucky. And this is where some of the students come in.
Yes.
And this school was built in 2020. This is a new school.
Oh.
So
yes. So exactly
yeah,
at this time, actually, I was in Arkansas way back 2022. So February, and I stayed there January, February, March. So these 3 months actually I stayed there 45 days. So I still remember the weather. So I experienced 3 seasons. One is rainy season, same 45 days. I experienced 3 seasons: summer and rainy and snowy day. First time in my life I experienced a snowy day.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you got to experience that.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Well, it is still technically winter here, but we've been having a lot of spring kind of days, and they're not blooming right. Well, you can see we've got, I don't know if you can see that, we've got a red bud down the street, and then we've got some white on some trees as well.
Yes. So thank you so much for taking us outside tour. And if you don't mind, could you please give a message to my students?
I want you guys to know that you are very special human beings on this planet. And the fact that you're part of this class and part of this program, and you're meeting with me, I think it's about 8:00 p.m. your time.
Yeah, it's almost it's almost 8 o'clock, 8:15 something around night time. So students, can you tell us what's the time there? Time here?
8:13.
Yeah, 8:13. 30?
13.
Okay, 8:13. So almost here. Yes.
It honors me that you can clock your time and 8:13 your time there, that you taking your time to get to speak with me today. My favorite thing to do is to learn, and then my second favorite thing to do is to teach what I've learned. So you've allowed me to do that with you guys, and this is one of the most special teaching experiences I've ever had in my entire life, to get to speak to you guys. I will treasure this forever.
Thank you so much,